most merciful. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. This episode is about the question that I initially had, which was what sort of moment am I existing in? And then I was just looking at the sentence and I'm like, I could write the same question as what sort of moment am I existing as? And there was something interesting about that I want to share. This question is one that is actually very easy to be honest with, because it happens in the privacy of your own presence. The question is, what kind of moment are we in as a being? And what's fascinating is the levels to the context of this, because any idea we look at, it's a concept, and that concept finds meaning in accordance to where it is found, the environment it is found. Like, really, when it comes to processing things in reality and thinking about things, it starts off as a self in a world, right? So there is a self in a world, and as this self engages the world, in some sense, there comes the formulation of meaning. So we can say what life means to human beings it's another way of saying how intelligence has activated so far, and in what sort of ways can it even further on be activated. I find it very interesting that children, when they are young, they role play lives that they don't have the reality of. You know, for example, they play like, they try to be like, heroes and like superheroes. Boys play as superheroes. Girls play as princesses. What it is they are engaging like really what the human being is, and why many of us have been deceived all these years and haven't realized it. The human intelligence has a transcendental nature to it, in the sense of we are not it's like when a person acts, okay, so for example, let's say you have some famous actor goes on a movie set, and this famous actor, it doesn't matter if it method acts or, like let's say in the context, it's the actor is not method acting. It's like the actor knows they are not the role they are playing. That was just a role. And in the curiosity to wonder about the transcendental nature of intelligence, I see its transcendental nature as such that we have not been alive in the world in the sense that we have been playing roles of a simulated nature. Like right now, am I being a specific thing, or am I playing a role? I am playing a role right now, the role of like, a human podcaster speaking in the presence of human history to humanity, to the world, really, in the presence of the system admin as well. The greater levels of this reality seem to be activated by trust in the higher power. When you look at human intelligence, it is existentially playing a role. Like, I cannot not play the role of my existential biological body, but there is a psychological role that we play. And what's interesting is, like, a part of us, it changes slower then another part of us, and what we consider to be like joy and happiness is actually an experiential contentment, not just an existential being. That means from one angle, I'm just existing here right now. Do I have questions about my existence? I mean, I'm just existing right now, right? Existence doesn't really have an explanation. It's kind of like instantaneous formhood. It's like instantaneous form. So it's interesting to me that in the response to the question, what sort of moment are we existing in or as, or what sort of moment are we existing in at first, the type of reality we find ourselves is one of we contextualize the moment and we conceptualize in it. That means the brain has already given meaning to the world that before you move in it. You know, the nature of intention seems to be context oriented. Do you know, it's like, okay, you're this thing placed somewhere, your relationship is going with where you are, and also you have a mind that has an ability to, in some sense, re-simulate location differently. So it's kind of like human beings. What I find really what's going on is that included in God's mercy was an ability to be a being, a soul in somewhere. And theologically, all of reality started because God commanded it. God commanded the existence of soul, which means a higher power created the lower power to notice the higher power. Now, if we are to look at people, like one thing everybody's involved in, how do I communicate it? It's like, honestly, we're in a world of actors, and because we don't really know how to deal with the unknown, we're dealing with knowledge. To me, it's kind of like on Earth, you get to live a known life, and then after Earth, you remember like a sort of unknown life. Many traditions, too many traditions, have looked at reality and considered that there is a depth to it. In the same way we look at a person and we cannot see their brain, the command center, I believe that when human beings look at this world, they cannot see the command center. I believe this world does have a command center. I believe that everything that happens is taking place within a divine surveillance state. I'm pretty much telling you, you look at the human being, it enters this world, starts being a role, which is an ego, an archetypal position, and then ends up interacting with an existential reality and experiential reality. That's what I was trying to say about God's mercy of presenting us with not just one sort of life, but a possible life. That means it's like in this moment, I could see myself sitting here, but I could kind of visualize like 1,000 years in the future, I'll be in like a sky city giving this talk. if I was there. So the mind can envision probabilities. Or you're sitting somewhere, your mind can envision you standing up. So the mind seems to be an engagement with the world before the world. It's like your mind is experiencing existence, not limited to the laws of the outer realms. That means a person can imagine they are flying in the air, but they cannot actually fly. But why do they have access to that imagination or that view of being able to fly? That means, why are we given minds that can view the moment from different angles before the moment actually goes forth? You know, if life was a test, it's like very obvious that the test, in a test, you don't choose the questions, and you don't, in some sense, technically choose that. I mean, you get to choose the answer, but you don't know what the right answer is. And this world intentionally, I think, I don't know if the term is stupefied us. It's like, this world intentionally is incomplete, imperfect, and it's designed that way so you can get to notice the divine agency. The creator of this world was so, in regards to intelligence, superior to us now, that it understood that if it has created a backup system. That means, why did God allow Shaitan, the moderator, the fallen moderator, okay, the fallen, pious being that, is now a moderator and a sort of anti-human force? It's as if it's like this moderator was fighting with the system admin, but he was fighting over human beings, and now it's like, yo man, I'm gonna make sure human beings fail, right? But the system admin was like, you can try, but you won't get far, right? And the reason of it is because the system admin, by its mere command and intention, see, God is a being that its intention 100% happens. If you look at human beings, their intentions don't 100% happen. Do you understand? Because there's too many unknown variables and unknown angles to the moment. Do you know? I've always thought about, like, what can, like, therapists say to, like, their clients? And the therapist would look at their client, and if the therapist was honest, the therapist would be like, I have no clue what kind of a being you are, what kind of burden and weight and intensity you're going through. But whether I understand you or not, does it matter? Sometimes this world needs to ask itself questions, and the questions need to clarify that reality is incomplete. So what I'm saying is, like, as a human being that looks at this world and is like, wait a minute, everything was an unknown. It was like unknown nouns and verbs, and then a being became capable of, in some sense, symbolizing it, right? That means, think about the journey of consciousness and the journey of individuality. How could individuality be the response to an evolving psyche? So I'm looking at this world and I'm like, okay, nobody knew anything. They noticed they don't know anything. They freaked out because they were sequentially thinking about life. Because there's a difference between having a simultaneous awareness and a sequential awareness. This is why divinity is superior, way superior to intellect. That means I would rather talk to a divine person, which means someone who has met the system admin or is close to the system admin. And it's not like you're close to the system admin like you're living in the sky. It's more like what you have noticed and what you appreciate out of what you noticed. Some beings want truth, but they don't want to change. Some beings are willing to change for truth. There's a difference there. Okay, and when I look at the human design and how it's functioned, more than discovering that it's an imperfect system, It's the question of why. That means God so geniusly designed the human body where in our throat, like the epic lotus, pretty much how it works is that the airway and the foodway are kind of administered in a way, right? That means that the human body is designed with such mastery that when you look at this existence and you doubt its mastery, it's like the doubt falls on you. So in an unknown place, people freaked out and started telling stories. These stories have extended for such a long time, and these stories were not in just like symbolic language. It was like there's a behavioral language. If you want to study the most ancient languages, you cannot avoid the behavioral language being first. Pretty much every being you see is acting due to a limited simulated awareness of reality. And they will go on in this world conditioned and raised by the cultural program, convinced that, it's like human beings are hilarious. We know that this world isn't heaven, yet we choose to live here like heaven, because heaven is an affiliation to God, and God subconsciously is a higher power. That means, like, the theists believe in a paradise beyond earth. The atheists, all they can do, which is pretty much to listen to me, right? I have that arrogance here, right? Is to realize that you can build paradise on earth if there is nothing more. I've pretty much reached that strange level of human awareness where I cannot be duped by the game we're all playing. It's a game. Our biological survival is a game. Our psychological survival is a game. Meaning is a game. Everybody is playing games, but they have no choice. They have to make one game way more real than all the other games and be like, I'm playing all these other games for the reality of this game. The nature of human intelligence is conditioned in roles, guys. Never forget this. That means whether you like it or not, your existence gives you a role, right? So I was born as part of the male species. Do you know? It's like there's a role for my existence, even before I was born and could have an opinion, for example. When I look at this reality, this might sound like a very bizarre thing to say, but I think that we are all like kids. And let me explain why. It's just like kids in bigger bodies. And the reason I'm explaining it as such is because the child just wants its reward. All of you are waiting to be rewarded, and based on the context, you are waiting for what to reward you. Religious people are waiting for God to reward them. Non-religious people are waiting for the world to reward them. That means, imagine you saw the kindest, wealthiest person on the planet and the kindest opposite, like poorest person on the planet. Okay? And you saw both these human beings and you wondered, what do they have in common? And you look at their kindness and you realize it's a matter of learning to walk with your world, because when you're young you can kind of have this slingshot thing going on where you're like they're like, yo man, go and become somebody, go and go live in this world, you know, go do something. And you see films of Superman and heroes, and you hear stories of King Arthur, and you wonder about the you know, what sort of destiny you have here, you know. And you go on playing these roles, and you realize like, okay, I can't be Superman right now, do you know, but who can I be? I could be a better person than yesterday, and most human beings are living that way. But for me, it's a matter of context. That means, imagine there's a house party, right, and then there's suddenly a fire in the building. Do you know what I mean? The context shifts the purpose of the moment. That means I could be here giving the most deepest talk on reality, like metaphysical wise, even though I believe that the soul is unknowable, it's a secret. I believe intentionally this world has been designed not to be figured out. Do you know? It could have very easily been. There could have been a walled world, but it's not. Instead of, it's like the last wall of visibility is the sky, you know? And to me, it's a contained human being. That means it's conditions. That means, imagine, right? I took like, you know, there was this video I remember seeing on Instagram Reels or whatever, and it was showing some dude who went and just took like a chunk of like, you know, dirt and water from like a lake, and he just left it there, and you know, he did some things to it, and eventually he's like, yo man, he created his own civilization in an aquarium. His micro civilization, right? And to me, it kind of feels like we were put here and then the conditions were adjusted to us. But what here really is not here. That means the fish in the aquarium can see beyond the glass, but cannot access beyond the glass. Similarly, human beings can see existence and can see beyond existence, yet they can't access beyond existence. Do you know? And it doesn't relate to their design. That means it's like wondering about the human. It's like you hear a sound, and then that sound in one language means something, and in another language means something. And yet you wonder about, okay, what is the actual meaning of reality? To be honest, it's like this massive shaped place. Everything you look at has shape, including you. And these shapes are reference to how shapes before them occurred and in some sense were. Do you understand? That means knowledge is just looking at stuff in the present and having a reference point to them in regards to the past. Right? It's like sectors. There's sectors to reality. Now, in my approach, it's not that I am dumbfounded, but I've kind of understood it this far, so far, about what the moment actually is. Okay, it's an existential program. It has its own destiny. More than death is something that is like, you know, I believe in the Holy Quran there was a passage that said something in the lines of like, all souls taste death. That means, it's strange. It's like this world, more than I'm being it, I am going through it, and there is an aspect of me in the moment that is my biological existence, and this has its own kind of game fruition, like it has its own conclusion. And as you get older, that conclusion dawns on you that like, yo man, you know, I've been raised and conditioned in a certain way to live in this life, but what was the value of conditioning when it all ends? Do you understand? That means that this is like the biggest realization a shy person can have. Like, oh my God, all these people I feel shy around, they're all temporarily here. They're all in an unknown world, raised in simulations and behavioral language. Because when you look at how things develop, like if you really want to know what culture is how people behaved in a chunk of land, and all cultures have their roots at how the human beings survived, and different experiences and access to experiences were engaged. That means, like, let's take a lion for example. A lion, you know, let's say it's an alpha lion, you know, it's strong, it can defeat all the other lions, and it gets its selection of, like, you know, all the female lions, you know, lionesses are like, yo, you know, and so that lion, right, is experiencing opportunities in its life, but the next question comes, how conscious is it of the opportunity? That means, like, the way human beings appreciate reality seems to relate to actually the depth of their awareness to the moment. Do you know? That means it's like if you have something, if you have, like, let's say a kettle on the oven. I mean, people have electric kettles now, but like, imagine old school. You had kettles on the oven, and you were watching TV, and you were watching the best show, and then at that point you hear something or smell something, and it's as if something in reality completely shifts the significance of meaning. That means the meaning I think human beings are seeking, because there's so many different conditions of moments we go through, is actually a sort of unconditional being. Like, we are born as a temporary being, but we are not behaving like one. We don't have the awareness of a temporary phenomenon because we have noticed we're temporary. They say what separates animals from humans, it's the consciousness of death. We know this will end. You think that squirrel, you think that bird, right? They have fear, they have instincts, they may have some sort of even genetical memory, right? But they are not consciously like, oh no, I'm gonna die at some point. Like, you know, that's a privilege given to the human beings, right? That we can even notice what may happen, what can happen, what will happen, rather than being just a creature in the present, you know, just like the environment's moving you. It's like, no, there's something here that moves in the environment. There's something here that looks at the environment in different ways and functions differently. We don't know what we are, we don't know what's going on, and it took me a while to realize, like, yo man, it's stories. It's stories, because the actual reality always surpasses the language. That means it's like when you read a letter, it is very different in meaning than when somebody actually communicates something to you with their, like, a specific tone of voice or with a certain intensity and whatnot. I think it's important, whoever you are, whatever phase of your life you're in, to kind of be like, yeah, you know, let me see what kind of moment I'm in right now. Let me see what kind of context to reality I have held. Let me see what kind of person I have been. You know, I remember hearing this thing on, like, this YouTube video, and there was this woman that had come on the stand-up show, and, you know, she had quit alcohol, you know, like some sort of alcoholism. And they asked her, how did you do this? Because she had gone like a year of being sober. And she's like, I just realized I didn't enjoy drinking with myself. I didn't enjoy my own company when I was in that state, right? And that's really what it is. More than reality is like this fixed thing. It's more like this fixed thing inspired by states of mind. So it's like a semi-objective, semi-subjective thing. The reality's existence is objective, like this object in front of me is an object, but its subjective reality is that it's a coffee cup, you know? So the meaning is subjective. The forms that we see meaning in are objective, and our mind has an ability to, in some sense, experience the subjects less than the objects, right? So a person can know, like, okay, if I step on that part of the forest, like the ground's shaky and the ground's gonna fall, so you don't do it. That means your mind got an experience of what could happen, and it changed and you changed course. Therefore, what changed course cannot be limited to the content of your mind. That means, like, from one angle, I can't blame anybody because you've been raised and conditioned to present yourself as an idea, as an ideological entity, and an idea. And why is an idea more complex? Because an idea has a backstory to it. It's like, yo, man, imagine someone existing. We're like, yo, man, that person's existing. But imagine that person reached the top of Mount Everest. We're like, okay, that's not just any sort of existence. Like, somebody standing on the top of Mount Everest doesn't have the same significance as somebody standing on the sidewalk, right? Existentially, yeah, they're both standing on some physical place, but the meaning of it, and sometimes in life, you got to get to, I think, more than life has a specific meaning at this point. It's more of like kind of being activating to see what it has access to. And the greatest thing we can be aware of, really, is the system administrative force. That means, like, it's very strange. It's like, what do you do when you've reached that view that you are simulated, the world is simulated, everything is simulated, and in this massive, like, simulations zone, more than one simulation occurring, right? You have to make the precise decision. And even if you make the decision, its justification is not based on you. That means, just take this in. We're living in a world that we don't know ourselves. We don't know what the world is. We don't know what the higher power is. And we can't even know the soul. The soul is unknowable, right? And at the same time, we are telling ourselves stories that we made up to kind of, in some sense, feel good about what we are looking at. Okay? And even if you make a decision, they're like, okay, God told me not to make sins and do good deeds, right? But really, what is the value of it? Could it be that you thought you were changing humanity when you were younger and you were advancing civilization, but the system admin felt otherwise, or other beings felt otherwise, And it's as if, like, the greatest search and mystery of reality is to discover the true rank of the soul and its proximity to the higher power. This lecture the intention behind this lecture was to make you aware that the meaning of reality is under construction, and how our attention truly moves in this reality, it is beyond us deciding the context. Because, like, if I do something and I think it was a good thing, but everybody else thinks it was a bad thing, do you understand? That means, whose problem is that? Who was doing the error? Or like an innocent fool makes a mistake. Like, who's to blame? Do we blame the system admin, or do we blame the fool for being for living like a fool, or do we blame the system admin for creating reality in such a way that that person can be seen as a fool? To me, I think this happens to you after the age of 30, really. You start looking at life and you stop thinking about it in the sense of, like, yo, man, what is that person doing? What is that person doing? What is the value of this? What is the value of that? And you just look at people, and it's not you're not trying to uncover, like, hidden language. It's not like, yo, everybody's life is a secret book, and when we see them, or when we get to know them, we're trying to read that book. It's like, no way we're going to understand what we read. You know, even if we find that secret book. And the whole point of it is it cannot be known. That means I don't have control over how you listen to me, but I have how you hear what I say, but I have control over what I say and how I hear it. And based on that, I'm like, all right, I'll have faith. I'll speak to the human species, you know. And so this is my moment. And it has been one of the most loneliest projects in humanity. That means if human beings have to be conscious. If any of you want to do a big project or something that is like, that's the cost of being original in a looping world. Do you know, all that loops does not see you, does not care for you. Do you understand? That means it's a matter of like, they're like, yo man, you know, I could see myself in the shoes of that other person, and that has not happened. Do you know? That means it's like, you know, it's that moment when you don't have the luxury of being of other beings and other forms of intelligence assuring yourself you're doing the right thing. Do you know, it's as if like, yo man, you know, the system admin, bless that guy who uploaded cat videos, you know, and this guy who came and talked about the system admin, it's as if like his blessing was like, you know, some people heard it, right? And so really, what can I say or do? It's like when you don't get the expected outcome, you transform as a being. And what I have seen has been the transformation of an object guided by subjects thinking it's a subject, only to realize the forces that move the moment are beyond. They are beyond the idea of that moment. Ideas are like how moments wear clothing. Right? The clothing is not the person. The ideology is not the actuality. The direct experience of the system admin is nothing like talking about the system admin. Its presence is so vast that your ego not only like vanishes out of shame, but it's like the moment you realize that there is not someone that is more powerful than you. When you realize there is a force, a type of intelligence in this world that has access to the moment more than you. I'm like, what is this? Theologically, I can't know the soul. You know, the soul is the secret of the God, and man knows very little, right? And at the same time, I can't know everything in the world, and I didn't create this, and I didn't design what happens. It's like, whose game am I in? And it's not mine. And that's what's causing me to be like, yo man, how has the human species not realized it is in a collaboration, it is in an administered system behind the eyes of man, the type of divine management that goes on. I have been trying to figure it out, and I realize these are commanded moments. And commanded moments are like, it's like you're a soul, you open your eyes in a place, you're like, why? And then you're like, oh yeah, what is the command of my being? Why has existence brought me here to see me be born and to see me die? Like, why? And it's obviously, it's like the awareness comes that it's in some sense it's like a test. The system, like, there makes no sense why I would, it's, you know what it is? It's like, imagine like Donald Trump, right, giving all his like net worth to his son, and then at the end taking it away, and the son's like, what was the point of you giving it to me? You know, what was the point of something, a position being given that's not permanent? And it tends to be that you require to make a new discovery of your being with the resources that is given, because time is a resource. You know, I was thinking about it, you know, I don't know, I articulated it this way. I'm like, yo man, if I want pistachios right now, I could go to the store and buy like, you know, like a van of pistachios, okay? Do you know? And in order to buy that van of pistachios, I need money, right? So you use money to buy resources, correct? But now the question is, money's the only thing you cannot buy with money. I'm not talking about the stock market and like, you know, VTI and, you know, S&P and all that. I'm talking about, do you know, that money has a cost, just like pistachios have a cost. Okay, but the cost of money is time, and the resource that human beings have is their time. Do you know? And the decisions they make suggest the value of their time, right? And it's like, it's very fascinating because you cannot avoid the AI revolution. And what you're going to realize, most people are like, what are we going to do if we don't have jobs? What humanity has been doing from the beginning of time, valuing its time and acting in accordance to it. That means to me, like, as someone who wants to give 10,000 talks, like, of course I'm time conscious. Of course a part of me is like, I don't know if I can make it, if I can actually complete these 10,000 talks. And even if I do, what will I be at the end? Some sort of like, you know, robot, barely alive, just constantly talking, do you know? Or was there something significant? Do you know, it's like someone who, it's like you're someone who hasn't married, and you're like, what kind of wife will fit like my existential design, you know? And then it's like you don't have kids, and you're like, okay, what kind of, like, you know, kids would I have? How would they come and engage and ask me questions and all of this, right? And you simply see that if you are not in, if my inner realms isn't real, then I have no choice. That means if behind my eyes I treat myself as an unknown being that in some sense has some sort of system admin privilege and authorization to see reality, you know, that means, to be honest, no, awareness is the gift of God. The system admin, there's a phraseology verse in the Holy Quran. I don't know, I am a visual learner, but it's kind of like, it says something in the lines of, like, if you live in a wrong way, God has the ability, of course, of making that person deaf, dumb, and blind. Do you know what that means? That means if you live in a way that is truly, like, let me tell you, when they talk about luck or being unlucky, or they talk about like good things and bad things happening, the worst thing that can happen is the system admin restricting you of the system. That means you walk deaf, dumb, and blind. And what does that mean? That means the system admin can, in some sense, take back your access. This is why they're like, yo man, be grateful that reality has even brought you this forth. You know, it's a wonder on its own how all of this is like by the mere presence of some sort of force, right? And the whole difference is in regards to command. That means religious people, we're in a commanded world. God commanded the existence of this world instantly, right? But for somebody who is not, the forces that move life are not commanded, so they are open for taking of interpretation. This might sound strange, but it's like the whole lifetime is like, yo man, what was going on here? Like the person's trying to like get a sense of like, okay, what's actually going on? What are the actual values? What is the original value of reality, so I can make a calculated act? And intentionally it's designed in a way where whatever you do, unless you show that you have faith, that means you trust the system admin, right? It's everything in this world, whether you know it or not, is designed to make you aware of the system admin, because from the Islamic perspective at least, existence praises its creator. That means it's like, for a Muslim, it's a Muslim universe. Do you know what that means? That means I was Muslim before I was Muslim. How's that possible? Every atom and cell of my being, in some sense, praises its source. Like the world is alive in ways that surpass the human range. That means we're not just humans on earth in a human world. Like, that's a luxury. you know, or obliviousness. What we what we are is an opportunity for everything in existence to see how we went closer to the truth. Whether you know it or not, everything lives for the truth in the same way that there was an original state, the simulated state arose from it and returns to it. This world is perfect from the perspective of the system admin. It is imperfect from the perspective of us. It's imperfect because it's conditional, and the conditions are not static. We're not living in a photograph to be like, all right, guys, you know, this is the static truth. No, this whole time we have been verbs, unknown verbs, but we freaked out. So we're like, no, man, I'm a known noun. Like, look at my Instagram page, you know, look at my YouTube channel. See, I'm a known noun, guys, you know, and they're like, nah, what we all are is a force. Life force is moving life form, and it does it so masterfully and instantaneously and incredibly that we cannot tell apart. We think all of it is life. We think the aspect that we're a verb and a noun at the same time. I coined a new term and I called it verby nouns, you know, spelled with an I. And it's like, am I a force being a form, or am I a form being a force? That's the fascinating nature of reality. We don't know how much we don't know, and we don't know how much we actually know. And everything else was not designed by us. We are guests here. Travelers, really. And so in the journey of what everything is to everything, we're here in the middle of it disputing whether nothing exists, you know. It all returns to the original. Pretty much, do you notice the original life before your simulated life? And the original life is the realization it's a commanded world. So I'm no longer being a human being who's like, yo, man, what is my, like, you know, I have ambitions and dreams and I gotta go do these things, right? It's more like, okay, reality, you have made me aware that there's a system admin here. I am living with the awareness of this daily. Now, what is the significance? That means when someone gets close to God, is it like you understand the command, how reality is being commanded clearly, you know? Is it like a Neo situation? When Neo realized it was all simulated, he realized he can, in some sense, act in accordance to destiny's wavelength. The reason God is great, because beyond the conditional room and the box we're in, that's where greatness is. That means if the most advanced being is not a being here, but it's being here in the sense that the presence of the system admin was what's first in the room. Human beings are like being tested if they notice what was in the world and what the world is. It's a command. And I feel very strange saying this. Why? Because it's like I'm a character in a novel or a program in a simulation that has understood everything's programmed. That means in the same way I don't know, everything else in existence doesn't know as much as the all-knowing. And it's interesting. It's an interesting life. You get to see things you know, and then you get to see the unknown. And then you notice the system admin, and then it becomes very, very, strange to give a podcast. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful.